Round two. Well, no headphones.
Take it easy, man. You're in that thing. You're
No headphones. Well, I can't hear myself, so I wouldn't know.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point. Can you hear me in there, Noel? How are we doing over there? Steve, you good?
We can always hear Steve.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out what mic we got. Okay, so we got the boys just got back from the mountains. We took a trip up to the mountains this past weekend. We did some skiing.
Well, some of us did some skiing.
Yeah, we did some skiing. We did some snowboarding, and
I did a lot of getting up
and
trying to find my skis in the woods.
Back up just a little bit. There you go. That'll be good.
Wish I had headphones. I'd know what I sound like.
So we got but the one thing that Tony did come away with is he came away with a souvenir. He hasn't taken his goggles off in the last 48 hours.
Nope.
So before we press that play button, would you like to explain anything about skiing?
Yeah, it's probably the stupidest thing anyone could try to do. Plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, here we go. Started off.
You asked, I told it.
What is the biggest factor preventing people from being confident?
What is the biggest factor preventing people from being confident? Okay, we will start. Everyone gets this 15-second buffer period while I figure out the clock, and we will start now. What is the biggest factor preventing people from being confident?
What if we tried something new today and we all said our short little answer with really no explanation, then we dove into it?
Okay, you go first.
Mine is liars.
Liars?
What's the
Liars.
question again?
Mine is lack of vision.
What's the question again?
What is the biggest factor preventing someone from being confident?
I like liars.
Nope.
Nope. You're
Nope.
not allowed to do that. Did you not listen?
Harvey.
Okay.
That's my
We'll
answer.
bring it back to your point.
Harvey.
So for me, it's liars. The reason I say the word liars is because I think we are in a society that is completely comparative. And so when you lack confidence, it's from usually what you think other people portray. I always knew that when I was growing up, the parents that looked the quote-unquote happiest in public were always the ones who ended up getting divorced. And the people who are on Instagram constantly posting, constantly reminding you of how much fun they're having, they're just not posting the stuff that isn't fun. Yet, for us, we see it, we see their lifestyle, we see how they live, we see what they are portraying, and we say, I'm not doing those things, I lose my confidence. Now, all of a sudden, that's a snowball effect, and it starts rolling down the hill pretty darn fast.
Would you think that that is a comparison then instead of lying?
No, because I think that people are lying to themselves in how they portray. I think that being vulnerable is one of the coolest characteristics of people, and the willingness to admit things that they're bad at or things that have gone wrong. I know that when I watch stuff or I look at stuff, when people are being honest and show a lot of humility, I identify with that person. I end up actually cheering for them in the times that go well for them. Compared to somebody who is just all the time, this is going great, everything's great, my life is great. I just think that that is a lie that people inherently see and respond to in a lack of confidence in their own world.
So it's a lot of themselves, not a lot of people.
Correct.
Right. It is basically not living authentically.
Correct.
So you can use, and that we've talked a lot about that on Coffee Buzz. I think it's crazy how it comes up if it's like, you can have a ton of adjectives, if you will, that describe a person or an answer in these questions that he asked. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
Like you could essentially have tons of answers for unauthentic, not genuine, no humility, liar. Right. So, no, I love that. I think for me, vision, because anyone that I've encountered as a coach, as a teammate, as a former student, and then also as my own individualism is anytime you don't have a compelling vision, it allows for a high chance of laziness. So, and the more laziness you invite into your life, the less action that you take, either mentally or physically. You start to become idle, and then with idleness, you don't see any progress. And I think that we get so much confidence through growth that you have to have some sort of progressive lifestyle. You have to have something that is showing progressive, and then as you progress, you're growing in confidence. But all of that progressiveness starts with some sort of vision, and then you are able to either act on it mentally or physically. And the more that you do that internally, you reach this state of like fulfillment. And I'm not talking about an outside opinion, an external stimuli, if you will. I'm talking about an internal development where some people like to read, and then they just notice that they get better at reading, and then all of a sudden, every time they finish a book, they've reached a higher level of confidence. And then so even
They
if
want another.
yeah, and even if you're not a good communicator or you're not an extrovert, like any time you're in a coffee conversation, you're in an environment, the more books that you have read, you're going to feel deeper sense of confidence. And this is just one example. But so the reason why I use the term vision is because vision creates action, action creates confidence.
40 seconds, Tony.
Good. I said Harvey, right? And so I feel like with me especially, every time I'm feeling good about myself, Harvey will let me enjoy it for about 16 to 18 hours, and then literally the very next day he just brings me back down to reality.
Well, do you think
But
that's
it's-
because he wants to teach you vision?
Yeah, it's a good thing, right? He'll let me enjoy it for a little bit, but then literally the next day it's just back to Marty and Vocca when he's just shutting me down. It's not a bad thing. I like it. Shaped me into the man I am today. Thanks, Skip.
Oh, there you have it. Noel?
Maybe we do a vote below. Comment below.
Oh, yeah, vote below.
Comment below on who you chose. Whose answer did you like the most?
There, that was 5. Was that sort of the direction you were thinking there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to get a little more, I want to make sure we don't influence each other too much right out the gates.
I don't want to. So you have to say your own answer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't like how I feel like we always agree with each other.
I do too.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Sure.
Okay, which is more important, what you say or how you say it?
Which is more important, what you say or how you say it? Ready, go. I know your answer to this,
How you
Steve.
say it.
I knew you were going to say how you say it. I was going to say how you say it too.
What you say?
Okay.
Go ahead, Tony.
Yo,
Try to
start this
convince
side.
me otherwise.
Okay, so
Go ahead, Tony. Try to convince me otherwise.
all right, so what you say could literally damage a person, right? And they can't pick up what you actually mean by what you're saying, right? So you could mean something good, but what you say could destroy that person. Does that make sense?
Doesn't that mean that how you would say it would
But
communicate
it's
what you're saying?
What you're saying.
Okay, so let me do this.
But they're
real
not
quick.
picking up what you really mean.
Let me say this to you real quick. Tony, you're a loser. Tony, you're a loser.
Well, I know you mean that.
The second one or the first one?
Say them again.
Tony, you're a loser. Tony, you're a loser.
Well,
Which one did you
I've heard it from every angle from you.
Exactly, but my point is, I said you're a loser, and one of those, in the context of one of those, you probably thought, oh, that's my buddy Harv.
Well, let's think of it this way. Let's go a positive route, okay? Let's say from this weekend, you get on the hill, you fall down right away. And I go like this. Is it your first time skiing?
And then I go, my legs hurt.
Or you fall, you're frustrated, and I go, is this your first time skiing?
And then I would say yes.
You would react the same to both.
You're frustrated in both parts of the word. You're frustrated in both of them, but
Most people wouldn't be frustrated at my first comment.
yeah,
because they understand
they would feel
tones.
the empathy. They'd feel the empathy.
It's your first time, man. Is this your first time skiing? Is this your first time skiing? Condescending or supportive?
I mean, okay.
If you're gonna jump into the you better be ready to go.
See how you said that?
Yeah. Well,
I knew you were being supportive. See, there we go.
So then you're now agreeing with us.
Yeah, Harvey, you're up.
Gosh darn it! This guy's got to get some rings. He's got to get some
Reps,
rounds.
reps.
You need some reps. The one
Reps,
thing I really
reps,
liked
reps.
that you did was you took an angle that was unpopular. I really do respect that. I think really for anyone who is in a communication setting, they would know right away the answer to that question. To the point where I'm ready to move on to the next one.
I just wanted to start a debate.
Well, so to finish it on our side of the table, Steve, of the side of it's how you say it, it's what Steve said essentially is it's tones, right? It's kind of like you can essentially teach leadership. You can teach the word purpose, right, or leadership. You could talk about leadership, and you could pick 10 people out of a crowd, and you could give them a script on leadership, and you could just tell them to go in the room. You have an hour to have this script of leadership, and you're going to talk about it for 10 minutes. And out of those 10 people, 1 or 2 of them might make money going off of leadership. but you can say the same exact words. And what I think about that is people leave conversations. People are fuel systems. We're energy systems for each other. So that's why when you listen to David Chappelle and he makes you laugh and he's just talking about things. Well, comics are great at this because comics take the truth about life and they make it hilarious. Where in reality that has already happened. So when they make fun of like commonality things, you could just have that conversation and people wouldn't think twice about it. But what is so electric about comics is they take things that happen, they take the same conversation that we have and they make it hilarious. But it's how they portray the language or the conversation, and then you leave that with another feeling. So that goes back to how you say things. How you say things to people is more important than what you say, because people can feel, and you use this a lot, so I won't try to, I'll give you a minute, but I don't want to take away your steam. Transparency. People can feel the transparency. That's my leader analogy. 10 people can talk to me about leadership, but 9 of you, I know you don't really even know that for yourself. You just know that word that you read in that book.
Yep. My only point that you got me thinking about was like how you can become a known personality. So like there's voices that how you say it, like now we're not even talking about flexion. We're just talking about your tone of your voice. Like if you have a unique tone of voice, you could be known way more so. So like a John Madden, a Donald Trump,
a Boomer, dude.
These are people who transcend normal vocal tones that allow for us to know who those people are forever. Or like you have like something and you just hear something, like our roommate Jack all the time. He'll hear a voice and he'll just be like, oh, that is just such a unique voice. And now all of a sudden you just listen to that person, you love them. So I think that literally tones, both in how you volunteer to portray yourself and also your natural tone, will always be more important than what you do. Because if Jim Carrey says anything, there's a 95% chance that I'm going to just think it's funny.
100%.
Without a doubt.
Just based on hearing his voice.
That'll be a fun conversation we should have deeper later on today.
Yeah, let's dive in deeper with that today.
That could be a funny one.
Yeah, let's get in there.
Go ahead, Noel.
Okay, in your guys' own opinion, who are the most talented people in the world?
In our own opinion, who are the most talented people in the world? For 5 minutes. Do you want to start? I
got to think for a second on this one. This is a really good question.
Who are the most talented people in the world?
Or impressive, talented or impressive.
So
people.
I'm going to start it. I feel like I'm supposed, because I feel like I'm the first. I haven't said it first yet, but I'll go to my first initial thoughts. Give us a minute or so to kind of think this over. Like research-wise, anybody technically could learn how to sing really well if you start strengthening your chords and those sort of things, right? I know neurologically, like deliberate practice, you could learn how to play the guitar in not that many hours. I know there's some research out there that says like within 20 hours you can increase your muscle memory and your fibers and your neurology to basically learn how to do something. And so you look at that, and I think our first reaction through society, because it's publicized so well, is musicians and athletes. Is like they're the best at stuff, right? But then realistically, is that true if you know that you can do things through, like I just said, like if you know that you can strengthen your vocal cords and you could learn how to sing, the hardest part about doing that is how bad you suck at it, and it's only portrayed. We only see sports as major league athletes. Like no one comprehends that takes 20 years to master that craft.
Do you think that if you trained, you could have a voice like Chris Stapleton's? Like that's a serious question.
That goes back to tones, though. Like I don't think it would be that genre. I don't think it'd be that type of vibe.
You would be able to hit notes.
But yeah, I think that because he created his own, and no one replicates anybody else anyways. Like even in Major League Baseball, just go watch the All-Star game, and not one pitcher has the same mechanics, but they might throw the same velocity of a fastball. And there's just little things that make people different. So I'm not making the statement that everybody's the same. I'm just making the statement that I think our first thought goes to people who are publicized, as that's what's so special. When if you really pull back a lot of like research and science and things that you can do, Like we could all sing.
And
So I have a
the word
question
was
for Harvey.
impressed, right?
Yeah.
Impressive.
Impressive or talented. Yes.
That's a big word for me. Impressive.
We'll go impressive.
Impressive. Go ahead, Tone.
So I got a question for Harvey. He was saying it a lot in Luton. You probably know where I'm going with this.
Oh.
If you had 4 years to train, could you be an Olympic skier? 4 years to train.
I know I'm gonna.
Now, I know you went down that black diamond confident the last time.
And I made it.
You made it.
I went down the most difficult run in my first weekend ever of skiing.
Yes.
And
There's double blacks.
there's double blacks. I think I could have done a double
Yeah.
black. I think I could have made a double black. And I know I'm going to get, I know there's some people, I know because a couple of my buddies who text me after all these coffee buzzes, I know they're laughing right now because I'm going to say I could do it.
Oh, my God.
That's why we love you, Mark. That's why we love you. 4 years of training.
What's your answer, Tony? Most impressive people in the world.
I've been actually saying this a lot lately. So athletic-wise, I always say that water polo players.
Water polo players are the most impressive people on the face of the earth to you.
They're not the most impressive. They're impressive. Really impressive.
So what-
they're treading water for, I mean, I really don't know how long, but, I mean, to be able to tread water for 10, 15 minutes like that. I mean, for me, hell, I just learned how to swim like 2 years ago. So that's why it's impressive to me.
So what, do you remember the guy we watched on the Netflix, the free climb?
Alex Honnold.
Yeah, so what was that? Can you just say that real quick so people understand what I'm about to say?
Yeah, when he free climbed El Capitan in Yosemite, which was 3,000 feet, without a rope or anything, just a bag of chalk on his waist, and did it in a couple hours.
And so this guy climbed 3,000 feet up with no gear. He had all the elements hitting him. They studied his fear centers in his brain, which essentially weren't getting activated while he was climbing. And so to me, those sort of feats, like those, like Wim Hof climbing mountains in his bare feet and just shorts on, like to me, those are feats that people have gone inside of what we think are impossible, and they do. Like those are things, to me, that's the most impressive. And that's what essentially my point was trying to tie back to. Those are the things that's crazy because you go and you watch this guy on Netflix and your palms literally sweat because you're scared and you know he's going to make it too, but you're terrified because you're watching the most impressive feat of somebody that most of the world, I'd have to imagine 99% of the world wouldn't even attempt to do that. Whereas think about how many people attempt to be singers or the amount of people who attempt to be basketball players. And that's pretty much at some certain age of level, all youth people, kids, they essentially start in some platform of what we consider to be massively impressive. Where I would flip it on its head and say, what's impressive? Yeah, we're way over.
My answer is inventors. Call or DM me for why.
Steve, would you do good in mountain climbing?
No.
Inventors, yeah, that was a good one.
What was the most difficult part of your athletic career?
Ooh.
Did you have a little accent there when you said that?
What was the most difficult part of your athletic career?
What was the most difficult
You are the weakest link.
part of our athletic careers? Go ahead.
Tone, you start.
I already know your answer too. You better say it.
Which one?
The conversation we had on the bench 2011.
Yeah, that's when so I'll make it short. I was talking to my coach, and I was having a really good summer, and I was, talking about the draft or whatever, and he was like, I just don't see you getting drafted because of your size, blah, blah, blah. So I went down and sat in the bullpen by myself, and I was just like, why am I even playing anymore? I was like, the ultimate goal was to make it to the big leagues, and then I just had a coach say I was too small to get drafted, to even get a chance. So I went down to the bullpen and sat by myself for like a couple innings, and then Harvey made his way down there and talked to me and gave me some stuff that I probably can't say on here.
Do you think that was your most difficult journey? Was
yeah,
your size?
Yeah.
Because you got that a lot.
Yeah, I got it as soon as I started getting attention in high school. That's all I heard was, you're too short. Oh, if you were 6 foot, it'd be a different story, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But, I heard it literally from my junior year of high school all the way till I was done playing in 2017.
Mm. Steve?
For me, I think it was a complete lack of understanding from people who watched my career from afar. So it would be like when you were done playing and like literally had 14 at-bats in independent league spring training and got released. That was the extent of my pro career. And literally even last week, I ran into someone in life. Like, you just lose touch with people. You know what I'm saying? You have your own stuff going on. Everything's going on. I'm walking my godson with my dad, Everett, and one of the kids who grew up down the road from me pulls up. And he pulls his car over, and he asked me if I'm in the MLB, like, right now. So, like, I think for me that happened just growing up in the place that I still live. People lose touch with you, and then they ask you those questions, and it makes you feel like, oh, man, like, that's all I'm
disappointed.
Not only is that all I'm known for in a lot of people's lives, but I didn't even get close. Like, it wasn't even close.
So do you think that one of your biggest pitfalls might have been the fact that you had so much success early on?
Yes. And yeah, I mean, it's a positive and a negative, just blind unawareness of the world. Mm-hmm. I was in a little bubble. Even when I went to college, I was still in a bubble because I had so much success in college. I just assumed, this is how things were going to go. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't have been more wrong. So my perspective, and then put that times 50 of people who don't understand it, you just feel like you let people down. I think that's a difficult thing to go through for anyone who does understand that it takes a lot of people supporting someone to be successful.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of athletes go through that tremendously too. That's like internal with like your family and whatnot. A lot of people struggle with that. And it's never what you think it is, which is what adds so much pressure to your own personal career. They just like you, but you think you let them down, which is really hard to.
Well, it's all you ever talked about.
Right. That's what Thanksgiving was all about, your baseball career.
100%. And then you go in and you're talking about old high school stories for the next couple of years because you're not, but they are. And you're just going, I don't really want to talk about this anymore. I actually have a real job now that I'm going to do for the next 60 years. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
That's it.
That's fun. No, because you're something different, right? So people get attracted to differentness when you're in a high level of sport. So they're not doing it, so they'd like to know. They want to know what that life is like. So you get out of that, and it's difficult on a lot of baseball players. I think for going off what you just said, I think for me, my hardest thing was demystifying things. If I could go back, what was most difficult was demystifying things. I always had trouble at first impressions of things, right? So you grow up and you want to be a Division I athlete, and then all of a sudden you're a Division I athlete, and it like happens in a day. And I would always have trouble demystifying this. Like, we'd get off the plane and we'd be playing at Florida in front of thousands of fans, and I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that I dreamt about this or thought about this for so long. Now all of a sudden it's happening, and you still have to play baseball. And I would always struggle with that early on at stuff. I struggled with that really early in my college career, being able to demystify moments. I still remember playing at UNLV with like 7,000 people for my first ever college game, and I couldn't even take pregame batting practice because I was so rattled. And I just couldn't stop thinking like, I'm in the NCAA Division I. This is insane. And then same thing in professional ball. When I got to my first spring training, I remember like getting all the way up there, and now all of a sudden I'm wearing a Milwaukee Brewers uniform, and I have New Era on and Majestic pants, and ESPN's right there.
Big time.
And I'm just like, I couldn't like wrap my head around the fact that I could just get people out. So to me, demystifying things was very difficult, and that's something as coaches now we try to help people demystify it. It's crazy, but that your brain will create the stories. If you're not in control of it, or you don't take control of your imagination, it'll just run.
So wait, did you say you were taking batting practice in Florida?
I went to college as a shortstop, son.
No kidding. Get out. You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
Oh, Marty.
Used to be able to swing it.
Does it all.
I went 0 for 8 with 11 at-bats. I walked 3 times.
There you go.
Freshman year.
I bet.
Yeah.
Bad one.
Noel?
That's 4.
That's 4.
That's
it is.
I thought we were doing 5.
It's 4.
All right.
Well, there you have it. Cheers,
Inventors.
folks. Can you say your cheers, Voc?
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.